Uniting communities throughout the six. This is Urban Definition with your hosts Sassan, Kareem, and Zayn on CHHA 1610.
Good evening, sweet world. Today is Wednesday, June 14th, and you are tuned in to a new episode of Urban Definition. As per usual, I am joined by my co-host, Mr. Zayn Jinnah.
Hey, everyone.
And Mr. Sassan Mirzai.
Hey, guys.
Guys, how has your week been? And weekend, I suppose.
Stress-free completely.
Oh, yeah?
A little bit, actually. Like, I was working a lot, but it wasn't hectic.
I feel like you're always working these days. Even during the weekends, I might work. What are you doing? Working. What are you doing at work? And when you're not working, you're traveling.
It's movie closeout season, and it's summer. What else would I be doing?
It is true. Sassan?
Cleaning and stress-free, because, like, Overwatch weekend, E3 weekend, it was just a blast, honestly.
So did none of you guys go to see Wonder Woman?
No, I saw it yesterday, actually.
And what did you think?
For DC, not bad.
Sassan?
I haven't seen it yet, but he said for DC, and that just told me exactly what I'm expecting.
My take? It was atrocious. It was terrible. It was worse than, like... Batman vs. Superman was better than that.
Okay, no.
Yes.
I disagree completely.
Do you know the Wonder Woman story?
No, but
exactly.
For watching the movies,
exactly.
I'm looking at the movies. I'm not a comic book fan. I told you this.
I know, and that's
We've
exactly...
had so many arguments about this.
And that is the debate that I had with the person that I went with, was I absolutely hated it.
Who is the studio looking to please? Is it looking to please people who stick to the script or people who are there for the pure entertainment of it?
No, you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, they're trying to target your people,
exactly.
Which is like your millennials who like
you're a millennial.
Don't read the. Listen, I used to own the comic books. When we talk Transformers, we're not talking like this new age Transformers. I'm talking about the original Transformers,
like Beasties.
My point exactly. No need to continue this conversation. You just proved my point.
But hold on. Since I haven't seen it, I want to know, was it better than Green Lantern?
Yes and no. Yes, in that what Wonder Woman did is they took the essential key points from the original plot, and then kind of adapted it.
Okay, that didn't answer my question.
It was better because it was more realistic.
Compared to Suicide Squad, then, better or worse?
Suicide Squad was better.
Oh, okay, so it's a terrible movie.
It's a terrible movie.
Okay,
but
gotcha.
If you are like Zayn, which is I've never read a comic book, I have no intentions of reading the comic book, I'm just going to go for pure entertainment, you'll love it.
Completely accurate.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Fair?
Yeah. Sure.
Awesome. See, I love how that's the way we do it. It was just, yep. All right, good. Let's move on. Do you want to start with the news, Zayn?
Sure, I'll start.
All right.
If you've been on one of the new TTC streetcars and it broke down and you wonder why, well, it turns out that these vehicles are actually underperforming than what was expected. The shiny new streetcars, which are already facing a delay in production, are experiencing failures at a mean distance of around 5,530 kilometers, which is significantly lower than the 35,000 kilometers it's supposed to travel before having any of these defects. A failure to the TTC means that a problem with the vehicle causes a disruption in service of 5 or more minutes, and the vehicle is required to be taken out of service completely. This isn't the only problem with the streetcars now. As I've said before, they're facing a delay in production, but they've also experienced problems with brakes, passenger information systems, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems, which is HVAC. And Bombardier says it's dealing with these issues as well. More to come, really, but I mean, it's the TTC. How much can you really expect?
Fair. Male genitalia policy spurs backlash at Toronto women's spa. Now, this is not a breaking story. However, I would like to perpetuate it to the point where it becomes international news. A woman's only clothing optional spa in Toronto is being accused of transphobia after a customer trying to book a service said she was told their inclusion policy won't allow male genitalia. V. King tweeted about Body Blitz Spa, which calls itself a single-sex facility, women's-only spa, which told, I guess, his wife or him or her that their inclusion policy won't allow male genitalia. The tweet triggered a wave of negative feedback on the spa's social media accounts, including one that read, "I will no longer be coming here. A place where my trans women friends are not welcomed is not a place for me." Body Blitz Spa, which opened in 2005, and now has 2 locations, provides high-end water treatments. The spa was a bathing suit optional bathing suit optional policy for their customers, which is one of the reasons that they're single sex, to be able to create a safe space for all women. The spa's owner declined to appear on camera, but released a statement that said, "We support the LGBTQ community and recognize that this is a sensitive issue. However, because Body Blitz Spa is a single-sex facility with full nudity, we are not like other facilities. We recognize that this is an important discussion for single-sex facilities to have, and we will seek to find a satisfactory resolution."
Before I get into the fun E3 talk that I was going to get into, I have to talk about the bad stuff, which is Google. Well, it's not really bad. Google and Facebook are going to be penalized if they don't stop online terror hate. And this means that, so anything that's related to terrorists using the internet as like a safe space to discuss things, it won't be allowed. So they're going to be charged if they don't remove any harmful content from their networks. And basically where I see this going is that it's basically going to be a controlled internet within like the next couple of months, and people are going to get very angry about this because they're like, if we can stop this from being like shown on the internet, then they can stop this and this and this, and then the internet won't be as free as it is today.
Actually, on a related note, did you hear about the guy who got arrested for uploading Deadpool on his Facebook page? Like, he got charged today and recently, and can face up to 3 years in prison?
I did not, but that sounds really good, actually.
It raises a flag, right?
Yeah, finally people are they're seeing the limitations of what they can do with pirating.
Speaking of flags, though, thanks to the technicality of a little-known federal guideline, a pride flag was removed from a small-town Ontario high school. Wellington Heights Secondary School in Mount Forest, which is 2 hours outside of the city, raised the flag with every good intention of spreading a positive message of equality and acceptance, only to receive a complaint shortly after. The complaint pointed to a federal guideline called Dignity of the Flag, which basically states that no other flag can hang on the same pole as the Canadian national flag. It's not legislation or mandatory that this has to happen, but the local school board took it down to further consider their options. Some members of the school point out that the complaints exist because of the political weight it carries. The school does have the option of getting another pole to hang this flag, while many others are left to question how to handle this and what it means for their community.
Police officer who fatally shot Andrew Loku says he was devastated. That's right, a Toronto police officer who fatally shot a hammer-wielding man in the city 2 years ago said Wednesday he was devastated by the confrontation's grim conclusion, though he maintained he had no choice but to open fire. Constable Andrew Doyle was testifying at a coroner's inquest into Andrew Loku's death and addressed the man's relatives who weren't present directly at one point. This entire event was an absolute tragedy for everyone involved, he said on the witness stand. This is not the result that anybody wanted, especially me. I am absolutely devastated by this, and I'm sorry that this was the end result of a situation that I was involved in. The officer's testimony was his first time speaking publicly about his role in Loku's death, an incident that had sparked days of protest from the Toronto chapter of Black Lives Matter. The inquest, which could result in coroner's jury making recommendations aimed at preventing similar deaths, heard that a woman called 911 saying Loku had threatened to kill her friend. Doyle testified that he and his partner responded to the call and arrived to find Loku in an apartment building hallway shortly after midnight on July 5, 2015. The officer recalled drawing his gun and pointing it at Loku after spotting the man holding a hammer. Doyle said he shouted at Loku, who he called by name only once throughout his testimony, repeatedly to drop his weapon, but then fired twice when the man, who was about 7.5 meters away, started walking towards him and his partner with the hammer raised. I was afraid for my life, Doyle told the inquest. We're trained to stop the threat. 2 rounds stopped the threat. He immediately fell to the ground. There was no need for anything else. Asked whether he could have shot Loku's arm or legs instead, Doyle said police training called for officers to aim for the center mass. He also said using another weapon, such as a baton or pepper spray, would not have been enough, and he was not carrying a stun gun at the time.
So, to start with E3, there's one question I get asked a lot, and it is basically, are consoles better than PCs? And I always say, PCs are better. They're cheaper. They have the same games. You can have like tons of fun on them. And it's going to cost you a lot less because you can make a good PC from $500 to $1,100. And people say, but a console is only like $400. But I also say, a TV is going to cost you a lot more, so you'll need the TV and the console. But if you don't want to get into that, Xbox has just announced the Xbox One X, which is releasing on November 7th. And this is actually breakthrough technology because it's really tiny. It can play 4K games at 60 frames per second, $600, and honestly, that's really good for something Microsoft is doing. Because I don't know, I might actually be on board with this, other than the fact that you can't upgrade it later. But it's good for the price.
So this literally happened seconds ago. It was just brought to my attention that the police surveillance from the Andrew Loku incident has been released to the public. I just had a look at it myself with the tagline that read, "Police have been cleared of all charges and wrongdoings in the Andrew Loku death."
Good timing on breaking news right there.
I know.
If you're attending a Catholic high school and want to opt out from religious classes, then there is some good news for you. A human rights complaint was filed against the Simcoe Muskoka Catholic District School Board by a former student and has resulted in changes in exemption policies, while also encouraging other school boards to do the same. Claudia Signori filed the complaint last year, alleging she was discriminated against when she sought exemption from religious classes. It was privately settled last month. Her lawyer, Paul Champ, says, quote, "We're hopeful that it will send a message to all Catholic school boards across the province that pressure to attend religious courses or activities is discrimination in publicly funded schools." During the process, Claudia alleged that she felt pressure to stop seeking the exemption and was afraid she wouldn't be nominated for university scholarships or attend the school's prom. With all the changes that have come from this, the one important thing to know is that the settlement stipulates that parents or guardians must be involved in exemption requests in most cases before the student turns 18. So for any teens out there looking to simply skip class, not this time.
It's funny. Even though it's been 2 days now, I'm still feeling the after effect of this event. So if you're a ball fan or a sports fan in general, then you know that this past Monday night was Game 5 of the NBA Finals. Golden State won, winning 4-1 in the series. LeBron James is now 3-5 in his last 8 NBA Finals appearances. So hopefully that now crushes all comparisons to Michael Jordan, because y'all ain't got none at this point. Secondly, it is Kevin Durant's first NBA championship, so good on him. He's actually one of my favorite players. However, I do not condone him moving to Golden State to win this championship, but let's be honest, at the end of the day, people aren't really going to look back and say, oh, he had to move to a powerhouse in order to win that championship. Either way, good on him, good on Golden State. What is hilarious is right after winning, the entire team unanimously, all agreed that they would not do the White House visit, which I found absolutely hilarious.
So, since I don't have too much time to wrap up E3, Xbox did a great job of releasing their console before Sony this year, because Sony said the PS5 is going to be coming out next year, and Xbox is like, hey, we beat you, we're doing it in November. Nintendo did a really great job. They're announcing that they're actually going to have skins for the not skins, whatchamacallit, special edition Switches, but they're not as nice as the 3DS versions. They look like they're stickers placed on the actual Switch. But game-wise, the event was phenomenal this year. We had Mario Odyssey from Nintendo. We had Monster Hunter World from basically every console. We had Kareem and Zayn's favorite, Shaq Fu.
Zayn's favorite? Whoa!
Because you guys loved it.
Zayn did not know what Shaq Fu was.
I liked the trailer a lot.
But there's just so much stuff. So let's just end it there. Go watch E3. There's too much to cover.
I hope you cover this later on. It would be great.
We can do it in the last block if you want, or next week.
We'll be back, guys.
Urban Definition. On CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back, UD Nation. So, I suppose now is typically the part of the show where we either do real talk or have very special guests come through the house. And tonight, we have very special guests. So without further ado, I'm going to throw it over to Zayn, who's going to introduce tonight's guests.
Most definitely. It is actually my pleasure to welcome two people from Sesqui, which is a initiative and a project, if that's appropriate to say, of Canada 150, and they're going to be premiering a film next week. And here to introduce more about it are Taslim and Craig.
Caesar, actually.
Caesar, sorry.
Wow,
What did you call
Zayn.
me? Why did I say
Way to be
Craig?
on the ball.
Why did I say Craig?
This is why we never throw to Zayn. This is why we don't let Zayn do the lesson learned, Zayn.
Wow. Okay.
Way to go.
Rewind. It's all good.
Well, let's rewind for a
I
second.
think his name
and
was Craig for some reason.
That's okay. Let's move on from it, Zayn. Don't worry. Lesson learned. Let's rewind for a second, and I'm going to start tonight's conversation, because we rather do conversations instead of interviews.
Totally.
What does Sesqui stand for?
So Sesqui is short for sesquicentennial, which is 150. So we just chopped it in half.
Wow, that is probably the most clear, concise. Here I was expecting some long-winded paragraph answer. She was on the ball.
Sometimes simple is best.
Whoa.
There you go.
Zayn, you could not. I don't care. She deserves a 3-horn salute. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to do it, Zayn. I'm sorry.
I'm okay with it.
That's great. So, Zayn didn't do a great job at explaining. He kind of said, they're going to be playing a bit. But I would like a little bit more of an in-depth understanding of this.
Wait, you were expecting me to give an in-depth understanding for an introduction?
Well, just saying a video does not do it justice.
Oh, I'm trying to undersell it here so they can really go with it.
All right, so Zayn undersold it. So now give us the realistic picture.
Okay, so now I'm going to try and oversell it.
No, don't oversell it. Give us the real picture. Tell us what it is.
Okay, so it is a Canada 150 signature initiative that is meant to, or aims to celebrate Canada's future through immersive storytelling and immersive storytelling and technology, and basically promoting dialogue amongst all Canadians about where we're at today and celebrating the land, the people, the freedoms, and what we want collectively for our future.
That's pretty. I like her. She's so good. She should sit in on our Real Talk talks one day.
I'd be happy to.
She's so good. I love it.
Actually, during the break, she was telling me how she really had something to add to our conversation earlier.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I really wanted to participate in the Wonder Woman conversation, and for those who know me, know that I was probably itching to participate, but we'll talk about it after the show.
Maybe we'll talk about it during the last chunk before Zayn tells us what's going on in the weekend. But we'll get to that. I promise. We
good.
will. Caesar,
Yes.
explain to me your role in the project and a little bit about why you decided to get involved.
Well, in the beginning, I was a part of the production, so I was discovering, along with these guys, the whole technology and how to film this the documentary called Horizon. It's a documentary that we produced last year. It's in 360 degree. It was a really new technology, so we actually had to think like inventors. So we did a bunch of testings with cameras, with angles, with rigs, until we find the one that actually was good to shoot, to keep shooting the film. But yeah.
Fair enough. But it is more than just a 360 video, if I remember correctly. It's not just that. It's an amazing... So it's right now, the standard for TVs at least is 4K. If I understand correctly, you guys are going above and beyond that.
So much further.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So we are, the film has been produced, like nothing else has been done like this before. It is new to the world, cinematic innovation, all homegrown here, not only just in Canada, but in Ontario. It was filmed, illustrated, edited, and produced, or shot in stunning 9K resolution. So that in itself is an innovative feat.
I just have a question about the whole 360 part.
Mm-hmm.
I have a silly question and a real question. The silly question is, when you started the cameras, did you have to run away since it's in 360?
That's amazing, actually, because that's exactly what happened. Like, the camera assistant would hit record, and the whole crew would just, run and just hide anywhere, like behind trees, on the grass, whatever we could find a way to just hide. That was fun, actually.
I love that. You never caught yourselves in some of the shots?
You did. Our director actually was filming up in the north during a snow scene, and had to actually, because like you said, it is 360, so it's constantly filming, and so him and the crew actually had to dress in white and camouflage themselves so that they knew they would be captured in the shot, but to do the best to blend in to the environment as best as they could, and then try to stitch themselves out through the editing process.
That's amazing. And my second question was, since it's 360 and you can't really release this, was it going to be released later on VR?
It is already available in VR.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you should talk about that. 'Cause that's
So I suppose, yeah, if you could touch a little bit on the VR, and then we'll go into the next, a little bit more.
Yeah, so the film itself is available in two ways. The first being in 360. So we've actually built our own proprietary dome to house the film, and that way you can see it in its native environment in the round in 9K. But what we're also doing to help extend the reach of it nationally is we're adapting it to play in planetariums across the country. So you'll still be able to see it in a dome environment. It just won't necessarily be the full dome that we've built for the film specifically. And then in addition to that, we've created we've edited the film into 3 sort of chapters, as we're calling them, or vignettes, essentially, because the full film is about 22 minutes in total. So we've got about 3 7-minute segments that are available in VR. We've got an app. It's called Meridian. So the film is called Horizon. The VR app is called Meridian. So it's very symmetrical in that sense. It's a free app that you can download. It's available on iOS, on Android. You can download it. It's got the film in 3 different parts, and then it's got 5 other independent shorts that we've done. VR stories that we've done, featuring different Canadians and how they're working, how they're using creativity in their own lives.
So what were some of the biggest challenges, apart from filming itself and building the dome, that were part of your production?
Well, actually, we shot in different parts of Canada. Pretty much, we shot actually all across Canada. So, for example, we built a rig to put the camera on a helicopter to shoot the mountains on Yukon, for example. We shot like underwater, the beluga whale, for example. So we kind of have like the whole project was a kind of a challenge in many ways, not only technical wise, but also the whole idea of like shooting different aspects of Canada and different landscapes of Canada. Everything was an idea.
We're developing new film technology, right? So it was a learning process all the way through, and so that has been one of the bigger challenges. Is the learning process as we go. I mean, we had to build our own camera rig with 30 GoPros on it. That's something that doesn't exist anymore.
And I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, so we're taking bits and pieces of things that exist and we're brick and mortaring them together to create something new. Even yesterday, as we were actually inflating the dome in Regent Park, which is where it's going to have its premiere next week, the tech team, the crew that was there, even for them, they were learning how to put it together because they've been spending so much time designing it, but this is the first time it's actually been put together. So the whole process has been challenging in that way because we're learning as we go.
At some point, we're shooting with 4 different cameras from 4 different brands.
So living in the digital age, because that's what this is called right now, we are living in the digital age. How important was it to produce this project within that concept of being in the digital age?
I think that was where the initial idea for the project came from as well. I think it was a matter of our 2 executive producers who came up with the idea. They're documentary filmmakers and came up with the idea for the film. But we're also really interested in new technology and in innovation in film and wanting to learn more about 360 and VR. And that was, I think, where the creative sort of impetus came from to want to create something that would. It was also born out of the inspiration of Expo 67. I don't know if a lot of people know, but the film that played at Expo 67, Ontario's contribution to their pavilion, was actually the birth of IMAX. Mm-hmm. And so this was, and now IMAX is this big,
of course,
right? So, the inspiration was the same thing. We wanted to create something, or they wanted to create something that would have a lasting legacy as well as we go, towards the future. The project has not been, even though we're celebrating 150 years of Confederation, the project is very much not about looking back, but about looking forward.
And talking about legacy, what is your hopes for the legacy of this project? Because Canada only turns 150 once in its lifetime, but this is such a big project, and this is such a big year because we're celebrating it. But let's be honest, moving forward, there has to be some sort of expansion. There has to be some sort of, and then. So what is your expectations or hope for the legacy of this project?
Well, I think we have lots of hopes and dreams for what the future can bring. It's important to know that we were purpose built for Canada 150. So essentially, the project's life is for 2017 specifically. But we hope that the technology that we've created and the content that we've created will have the opportunity to live long past. And who knows, maybe maybe at 200 years, at 175, who knows?
And it's also like a gift for not only Canadians, but everybody to see a little bit of the country, because we shot all across country. So a lot of people just look at the images and say like, oh, I've never been there. I didn't know this was Canada, so there, we have like dunes, we have like ice, we have forest, we have oceans, you have everything. And so you can see a little bit of the country, even though we've never been in some of the parts.
Given that, sorry, go ahead. Yes.
I was just going to say, we have there's the Epcot Center, for example, has the Canadian Pavilion there, right?
Right.
So there's opportunities, I think, and we know we've been talking to them. There's it'd be amazing for it to live or play there, moving forward. I know that's a big dream of like ours, like internally. So there's lots of opportunities, I think, for the future. We just have to see where it goes.
Most definitely. That sounds really exciting to have that kind of a legacy as well, because as you mentioned, I recently went to Disneyland, so I when you said Epcot, it kind of
you saw igloos and mounties and beavers.
Zane's like, I have to throw that in. He had to throw. I went to Disneyland recently.
What I'm getting at is that I saw that film that they have there, and it's very outdated. And in my mind, when I heard about this project, I thought that would be fantastic if they could play this at Disney, where they have so much to show of other culture. Why not have something updated for Canada? I mean, we're only across the border for them.
Exactly, and this is our gift to Canada this year, or to Canadians this year. But there's expats, there's all kinds of things that we can do in the future, working and taking the film outside of Canada and internationally. So, big dreams, big hopes.
Amazing. We're going to continue this conversation, but we do have to take a quick commercial break. Stay tuned, guys. We'll be back. I'm loving this.
Urban Definition on CHHA 1610. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back, everybody.
We basically didn't let him talk about this. So Caesar brought up that he uses 3 different kinds of brands of cameras on the 360 rig.
Yeah, well, 4 actually.
4 different kinds? That must be crazy to edit with, because all the different colors, all the different styles of cameras.
You want to hear something worse? The editing actually was, for example, one of the rigs were 3 RAD cameras, so it was 3 different images, right? Yeah. So the guys in post-production, they had to stitch all the images together, and 80% of this was computer, 20% was human labor.
Oh my goodness.
And
this is the easiest one, because the GoPros were like 6 cameras. We had another rig with 6 Canon 5Ds, and another rig with Sony A7.
Okay, so I heard it completely wrong. I thought it was like Reds of GoPros and Canons all in one rig.
Yeah, not to go off on a tangent, but the 3 of us, Zayn, Sassan, and I, have a really random experience where we went to a third world country, or another country, and actually had to shoot on GoPros and DSLRs and then come back and do all of the color correction. So just so you know, Sassan's response to you was primarily based off of him having to basically combine underwater footage with footage outside on with a DSLR and then color match it. So that's why he was just like, oh my goodness, what have you had to endure? But that's the story behind that one.
That's crazy.
Well, a little interesting story about the editing as well. Because it has to be stitched in 360. We actually put up a protodome in the fall to basically we wanted to have a media open house to welcome people, give them a trailer tease of the film to come, but we actually also used it as our editing suite. So the production team
editing suite.
Yeah. So the team actually sat directly in the dome, in the protodome environment, and edited live.
That's amazing.
Actually, that's something I wanted to ask about, because this is the first dome of its kind you mentioned before, right? How do you even build a dome like that?
I don't know that either of us are qualified to answer the question.
Yeah, we had another team of brains who thought about this and thought about building this dome and the actual radials or diameter and all these technicalities.
We've got a really, really incredible team. Veterans from Cirque du Soleil, as well as broadcast, technology industries. Our creative team has been recognized with numerous awards, including Gemini's and Genie wins, even Oscar nominations. So they're a really, really great team. The dome designer is a company called Tectonics. They're based in the UK. It's the only thing that's actually been done outside of Canada. But it's they actually did. They have done other work in Canada or in Toronto specifically. They did the tent for the Pan Am.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've done some really ingenious dome or tent type work before. So it's incredible. But I couldn't begin to explain their thought process behind it.
Yeah,
It is
all the professionals and the
genius.
companies attached to Sesqui, they're like super like high end. Like for example, the company that built the rig to put the camera on the helicopter, there's a Canadian company that won an Oscar for engineer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They build a thing called Russian Arm or something like that.
That's
It's a camera with a car.
Sass, you heard of that before?
Never actually. That sounds amazing.
They do all this crazy car chase scenes. They do like James Bond and all this cars. So they actually won an Oscar for this, and they built this rig for us.
And they worked on this film. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, we would not be Urban Definition if we did not talk about the urban aspects of your project. With that being said, we're also Radio Voces Latinas, which is extremely diverse content and programming. And I want to get into the diversity aspects of this project. Now, it is no secret that Canada is a melting pot of multiple ethnicities, colors, and everything in between. Now, the goal of this project is to showcase various landscapes across Canada. Is that a safe description?
It's part of it. Yeah.
It's like the surface level, right?
Sure.
So what I want to get into is the significance or the importance of introducing these concepts, these images, these landscapes to a diverse group of people who otherwise don't know about, like, I'm talking about, for example, immigrants who don't necessarily know about the Rocky Mountains or know about, the amazing Whistler Mountains in BC. How has that aspect in terms of introducing, Canada to diverse crowds played a role in the way that you guys approached this project? Not necessarily in the production aspect, but in the post-production side of things. So after, your documentary is completed, getting it out and pushing the idea or the ideology that this is not just, Canada, this is all of Canada. Which is really weird to hear on radio.
I can give you an answer to that, but honestly, the best way to understand that question is to see the film, because when you see it, you will get it. We've filmed across the country, in every province, in every territory. We've had over 500 people of all backgrounds, of all ethnicities, of all different types of work environments or I don't know, performances, people who dance, people who sing, people who are Olympic athletes. Everyone is featured in the film, over 500 people. And that's just in the film, that's the making of the film. That's, we've worked with indigenous companies, like our VR developers. We're working with two companies. One's called U4S, they're based in Vancouver. The other one is an indigenous company called Pingwa, based in Nunavut. So we've really, I think that we've done an excellent job of capturing diversity, and really in a way of, and what we've actually done from a creative perspective is actually sort of juxtapose them in different ways. So taking, not to give anything away, but we've taken Bhangra dancers, for example, and put them in front of the library in Vancouver and had them dance. That's the scene from the film. So it's a visual symphony is what we're calling it. There's no, it's not narrative, there's no dialogue or anything like that, but it really is about showcasing the people, the places, the lands, the freedoms, the creativities, and showcasing them in different ways across the country. There really isn't anything more diverse than that.
Now, one of the VR stories is about a Syrian immigrant as well. And actually, we were talking about me, like, as an immigrant myself. When I watched everything, I was like, wow, Canada is way more than I was.
Funny, because that, when it comes to the Canada 150 birthday, I work for Radio Voces Latinas. I'm here Monday to Friday. And one of the biggest reactions that I get around here is, well, this whole Canada 150 is not really doing a good job at, telling the narratives of the immigrant experience, telling the narratives of, all of these different people who have come and made up Canada at this point, which is why it's so phenomenal to hear about, Bhangra dancers dancing in front of what is historically seen as a, unfortunately, white Canadian building.
Yeah, for sure. And then we're not actually telling, through the film Horizon, we're not actually telling those stories.
100%,
like that, right?
I understand that,
We're
yes.
showcasing, the possibilities.
But
right?
you're still pushing the rhetoric of diversity, which is something
100%.
that, unfortunately, is very uncommon amongst the plethora of projects that I see coming out for this Canada 150.
Absolutely. But what I was going to say was in Meridian, our VR app, the 5 individual stories we've got that they're a little bit more personal. So we're featuring independent stories we've collected, I guess, a couple of characters and having them tell their own independent stories. So as Cesar was saying, one of them is a Syrian refugee. His name is Hani El Moulia. He was recently, last year, appointed to Prime Minister Trudeau's Youth Council. He's legally blind. He uses the aperture of the camera to see. He's filmed his own story in VR about his experience. Wow. One of the other stories is about a man named Polarman. He's a self-proclaimed superhero based in Iqaluit. And he's an anti-bullying advocate, and this is his story. And then what we've done is, even in the VR, is we've used different ways of different media artists. So we used Dan Day, who's a former a Marvel comic illustrator, and the designer from the Nunavut flag, and use that to help tell his story as well. So there's independent stories there as well that talk about a more personal sort of Canadian experience. But I really do believe that, the project, while it's national in scope, it's very community driven. So we're really about bringing people together and having them, see, or bringing it to you. So if you can't travel somewhere, or being able to have a glimpse into what somebody else, what's possible, or how somebody else lives, or, we're really just trying to bridge our culture, our multiculturalism together.
100%.
One of the things I'm curious about then is, because you said how you put different cultures and juxtapose them with different buildings and landscapes. Do you also put them with what they are associated with as well? So would you put the Bhangra dancers in front of a temple, for example? No.
The idea, the way that I like to see the movie, it's more about moments of Canada.
That's right.
Okay.
So Bhangra dancers in Vancouver, they live there. They can dance there, and there's a bunch of different moments that we put in the film in order to create this Canadian moments in a way, like in a sense, like it's moments of Canada. This is Canada. This merged like this.
Okay, I see what you're saying there then.
Minister Jolie identified 4 themes for Canada 150. They were diversity, environment, youth, and Indigenous reconciliation. So we've done. What we've done is try to embrace all 4 of those themes into the film and into actually the entire project. So we're looking at them in different ways. So it's not about, showcasing any one thing particularly, but it's about being creative about it. And I think our whole idea was to just showcase Canada as a time capsule as to who we are now, but also sort of inspire people to kind of come together and create a new generation of emerging media artists.
Out of everywhere that you were able to travel in Canada, I mean, Cesar, this might be more for you because you were on set for the production, correct?
Yeah, no, I didn't travel like all across Canada, but some of the places, yeah.
What was your favorite place to visit? What was a place that you consider a hidden gem? Because, as you said, there's many different landscapes. A lot of people don't know. A lot of immigrants don't know. Like, people who are not from here or don't get the chance to travel Canada don't get the chance to see it. What is one of the most spectacular places you were able to see?
I think it was Sandbanks in Prince Edward County. It's just this dunes and this lake, and it's a very uncommon. I swear I couldn't think in this scenario here in Canada. It's like sand and dunes and a lake, and it's a very it's kind of the desert.
Isn't Prince Edward County just not too far from here?
No,
Actually, like 2-3 hours away.
Yeah, 2 hours, 2 hours and a half. It's really close, and it's something like unbelievable. It's really simple. It's but it's something like you hear about the mountains, you hear about the East Coast, but Sandbanks was like, wow.
This is hilarious because was it 2 weeks ago now, we had Melanie Vogel on the program, and she is actually a young lady from Germany who's going to be walking from Newfoundland?
All the way from the easternmost point of Canada.
So Newfoundland all the way to British Columbia. So I wish that she was still here to hear your recommendation, but I will definitely send it off to her.
No, but the one problem is the sandbanks are flooded right now. I told you guys about this.
Ah, yes, that is
It's actually
true.
completely gone because
really?
the water is rising. It's all gone. But we have to wait. Apparently, Kareem said that the water is going to be going down.
It is going down, and I will hopefully be able to tell you guys about that next week. But for now, I want to come back to you guys and ask you this. What was the most difficult obstacle or challenge you had to overcome to make this project a reality?
Well,
And I'd like to hear two separate answers
Okay.
because you guys were involved with two separate ways.
okay, on my end, I think was technology was like figuring out the way to shoot without being seen, without having your face in the camera. Since 360, I started a production with them, and we did like countless like tests and tests over tests. Like we didn't get like a wheelchair in a way to like hide underneath the camera like an umbrella, but yeah, I think the technology though.
You know, I can give you an answer from the business perspective of things, but I'll tell you another story actually just about from the filming perspective, which is because we were learning as we go. There's a scene in the film where we were trying to capture a caribou migration, and it took them 2 weeks to get that shot because they had no idea when they were going to come. So something like that in itself is a challenge, right?
That is amazing. That was such a... She always gives clear, concise answers. I love it. You guys are not gone yet because I did promise one thing that we're going to talk about when we come back after the commercial break. But was there anything you guys wanted to add before we go off?
No, not with the time that we have right now. But I definitely have a couple other questions for you.
Bring them on.
Stay tuned, guys. We'll be back. UD Nation. We love y'all.
This is Urban Definition. This is Urban Definition.
Welcome back, guys. Zayn looked at me like he was about to speak, and then he was like, wait, is Kareem going to do it? Or am
No,
I gonna
actually,
do it?
I was just looking at you to hope you were going to speak.
So, because Zayn butchered the intro, I would like you to do this again, Zayn, and tell us who we have in studio with the right names.
Do we have to?
Please do.
We have Sesqui in the house, and we have Taslim and Caesar. And they've been talking to us for the last 2 blocks about the project, what it is, how it came to be, and a whole plethora of other things associated with it.
Now, before we move on to our closing stuff of the night, including the next topic, which is a complete different tangent, I would like you to tell us again how to get, how to be a part of this project, how to see this project, where to go, what to do, the days of the events, where do I need to go, how do I follow you on social media? The floor is yours.
Wow. I think the most important thing to say is that we are launching officially next week here in Toronto. Is what we're calling our Cinematic Dome Tour. It kicks off on Wednesday, June 21st in Regent Park. It is a 7,000 square foot red dome. You can't miss it. So come down. We're going to be there from the 21st to the 25th, all day starting around noon.
And it's free.
And it's free, yes. Because we're a Canada 150 initiative, it is our mandate to be free. So this is our gift to Canadians to celebrate, an anniversary, a birthday. So free for the whole week. Come down, and then after Toronto, it's going to actually tour throughout June, July, and August across Ontario. We're going to 7 different cities. So there's lots of opportunity to check it out in its actual dome environment. The schedule is up on our website, sesqui.ca. We're on social media. We're on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. And then in addition to the dome, we've got VR installations happening all over the country. So on Canada Day alone, we're in 10 different spots. We're going to be in Iqaluit at an arts festival there. We're going to be in planetariums across the country. We're going to be at the Dome Tour in Ontario. We've got VR activations happening all over the place. They're just popping up whenever someone needs us. So there are lots of different ways to see it. It's we're hoping that we're going to get 10 million people to see it.
And what are your social media handles, just for people at home who want to get in touch and may not know exactly how?
It's hashtag Sesqui 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Instagram is at Sesqui 2017.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will definitely put that up on our social media to direct you to their social media.
Well, we're actually very fortunate to be covering some of the events
That's right.
and stuff like that. So definitely be on the lookout for the content that's coming out.
And I will mention that there's one other way to get involved or to be a part of the project, and that's to volunteer. We are totally looking for volunteers. There's so many different opportunities to be a part of the project, to be a part of the operations, to see the film, to be a part of all of the... We're working with so many other partners, and Parks Canada and CBC is our media partner. There's so many different people that we're working with that I think would be really great. It's a really great opportunity for students, for youth, for adults even to come and just be a part of the experience. It really is nothing like it. So if you want to volunteer, you can find out on the website as well.
And you definitely can check it out on the website, the schedule, but just a quick go through with the schedule. We're going to be in Toronto, and then London, and then Windsor, and then Sault Ste. Marie, Thunder Bay, Richmond Hill, and Kingston.
Phenomenal. Thank you guys so much for coming in. It has been an absolute pleasure, like always. Zayn might have butchered it, but Zayn is the one who brought you guys in tonight.
It is
so
true.
so
I'm
kudos
so
to
sorry,
Zayn.
Caesar, again.
That's okay, no problem.
Not Craig.
We're so
Caesar.
happy to be here, so thank you so much. And we're really looking forward to having you guys actually see the film next week.
We are definitely looking forward to it. So now Taslim shall take off the Sesqui hat and put on the movie buff hat.
Oh.
And with that, I would like to hear Taslim's take on Wonder Woman.
Well, see, and I'm a big Wonder Woman fan. I've been since I was a kid. And I was the girl who collected the comic books and read them all the way through as
So
well.
you and I can have a real conversation.
You and I can totally have a real conversation.
Okay, so
Thank
first
you
of all,
so
what did you think about the fact that, okay, so Ares's role, so technically in the original comic books, I don't think the character was supposed to be named Ares. He was
No.
supposed to be named...
Well, he was the god of... He's supposed to be
He is
based
the
on
god of war,
yes.
yes. And first of all, they did not go over the fact that Diane's mother chopped off what was her son's head.
That's right.
And the god of war was supposed to be imprisoned on the island.
That's right. Not out in the universe.
Not out in the universe. And then when Diane was like, the reason she goes...
I know. I actually think there was so much that they could have done with Themyscira.
Sam's
that
calming me
was
down right
missing.
now.
You're too loud on the headset.
Too loud. Actually, my levels are not peaking, so...
They will be in post.
But I think the origin story is amazing, and I think that's what was missing. That there's so much they could have done with Themyscira that I think was missing from the film. And I understand that there's so much to tell, and that you're not making the film for the comic book audience, you're making the film for the mass audience. But I feel like there was so much there in the beginning, and there were little parts here and there that I think they kind of missed, like the fact that the island was cloaked.
Exactly.
And how they found they were through.
Yeah.
And then, so there's little details like that I think, from a film perspective you can kind of ignore, but from a story perspective, they're so important.
And because you are the only person in this room that I can have this conversation with, I have one question for you.
Okay.
What is your take, or what is your thoughts on the fact that they essentially substituted main characters for diverse characters? And by that I'm referring to the fact that there were the sisters, first of all.
That's right.
There was the, I forget her name, who releases the God of War due to love.
Yeah.
They completely took those characters out
know.
and also killed... I'm not going to tell you who because that'll be a spoiler. But they killed another character that should not have died in the first place.
I agree, yeah.
What was your take on that being substituted for just having diverse characters?
Well, that moment that you talk about right now, I think that's the moment for me where the film kind of fell apart, or the story kind of fell apart, because I think what was so well done about the film was the fact that, I give a lot of kudos to Gal Gadot. I think she was phenomenal, and I think she was well
100%
cast.
I agree with you.
And I think that she did a really good job of sort of portraying that naivete and that sort of being sheltered and not knowing your own origins or your history, and then sort of feeling like you had a certain mission and then wanting to complete that because that's your duty, and then all of a sudden realizing that maybe that wasn't the mission after all, and feeling like you're at that point of crisis on yourself. And I think after that, it became the Hollywood movie. And they didn't need to go down the road that they went in terms of the scene that you're talking about. We won't give any spoilers away.
Another thing they could have not done, which I don't understand why, was they put way too many sexual innuendos in that film. I don't need a sexual innuendo about a watch. Come on. I understand it's DC. I understand to a certain degree it has to be a little bit more risque because DC is meant for an older, mature audience than Marvel is. But forget it.
Again, I still paid the money to watch it. To me, I was like, oh, this isn't so bad.
Yeah.
It was fun to watch.
But I think you're right. I think they forsake some of what was really good about the story to put in, the diverse characters, the innuendos, the even, I mean, at the end, well, okay, I don't want to give anything away, but there's a battle at the end between two gods that should have been amazing.
Exactly.
And it was lame.
No, Zayn, you have to shut your pie hole because you cannot comment anymore. You're out of this dialogue.
They were two gods.
Exactly.
It should have been so much more epic than that.
There was a lot of CG that I was just like, I can't. This is what looks way too fake for me.
And this conversation can go on forever and ever and ever, but we're not going to do that because we are limited for time. Again, I say it again, Teslim, it was absolute pleasure having you on air.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wish we could have you on again.
Please, anytime, I'd be happy to.
And with that, I pass it over to Zayn to first tell us, how do people chime in on this conversation? How do people connect with us? Because let's be honest, a lot of people are going to want to comment on what we just said. So Zayn, go ahead.
Go to urbandefinition.ca, which is our website. Click on the Facebook and Twitter tabs and be part of the conversation that way. Leave a comment, write on our wall, tweet at us, and let us know what you think and, how to... Well, about anything really at this point.
Zayn's great for on the spots. Just throw it over to Zayn. That's what you go to the website. Click on a tab. It's great, Zayn.
Isn't that what we say every week?
It is what we say every week. Zayn, with that, I throw it to you to tell me what's going on this weekend.
Very quickly, on Friday you have Night at the Aquarium, which is to celebrate Pride at Ripley's Aquarium this Friday from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. It'll be an evening of music by DJ Cosmic Cat, live entertainment, food, drinks, and a photo booth. It is a 19-plus event, so you will have to buy tickets for $40. You also have the North by Northeast Music Festival starting, which actually runs from this Friday until June 25th. And this weekend is Game Island, which is featuring free play and tournaments of games such as Super Smash Bros., Street Fighter V, and StarCraft 2. Go to their website, NXNE, which is northbynortheast.com, for more information. On Saturday, John Legend is actually going to be holding a concert as part of his Light and Darkness tour at the Budweiser stage. It'll be a great evening, so if you haven't found tickets, you can still find them on places like StubHub or Kijiji. Try Ticketmaster as well. The concert begins at 7:30 p.m. You also have City Place Movie Night, which is a free outdoor movie night at Canoe Landing Park, and they will be playing Sandlot. You can purchase snacks and refreshments from 7 to 8 p.m. The movie begins at 8. On Saturday, the last thing I'm going to say for Saturday, you have the Nuit Rose Light Parade, which is the first parade of Pride Week, and it's returning for its third year. It's free and open to the public and has the theme, What Lies Between Venus and Mars? It'll be held at the James Canning Gardens from 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. And Sunday is Father's Day, so to be honest, I really didn't look up any events because all I can think of is having a barbecue.
Good, because I was about to ask. It's this weekend is Father's Day weekend. How are you celebrating your father's existence, whether he's alive or in a land beyond?
Having a barbecue.
Sassan?
Oh, my cousins are coming, so fun times, family time. Yeah.
Fun times! Fun times!
That's all I had to say. My cousins are coming. Forget my dad.
As always, guys, it is a jam-packed weekend. Do not drink and drive because ain't nobody got time for that. If you're going to go out, there's so much to do, so enjoy the city. Canada 150 is coming up fast. So live, love, learn, guys. We are all students of life. Is there anything else you guys wanted to add for tonight?
Not really, no.
Nope, that's it. Have a good night.
Sassan always yells,
Bye.
Urban Definition. On
CHHA.